is the Wrestling Mat. I am Matt Camp. That's where the name comes from. It's a play on words. A lot of you know that already because you've been here for months and months and months since we started this thing up. I thank you for that. I thanks to everybody. I thank everyone who is joining us for the first time. If you're like me, sometimes you want to get out and feel what the world is like what Obafemi should be doing right now in NXT, because to me, I think he has outgrown that warehouse in Orlando, Florida. We are going to get to that today. Another impressive performance by Obafemi, coming off of the victory at No Mercy against Tony D'Angelo. But, man, it seems like, and maybe I slept on him a little bit. Maybe I did sleep on Oba a little bit. But Oba seems a bit big for what's going on right now in NXT. And I mean that as a compliment to him and maybe a question of what's going on elsewhere in NXT. But we will get to that today. We're going to talk about the debut of GIULIA, seeing her at No Mercy, seeing her at the end of NXT last night, what the prospects are for her, and WWE as a whole. What about the state of the WWE TNA partnership? We touched this a lot when this first started. You know, with Jordan Grace showing up and things like that. She's going to be back in the mix next week. But where does it stand right now? Is it continuing to benefit both sides? Who is getting more out of it as we come off of No Mercy, where a TNA superstar, a TNA wrestler, and Joe Hendry main evented a WWE PLE. Yes, an NXT PLE, but still, he main evented it. And I think there's a lot to be said about that and the fact that we didn't see him on NXT last night. So that's where we're going with. And also, as we throw it out there, NXT is moving to CW in just a couple of weeks. What does that look like? We know they're going to be on the road for those first two shows. They're going to Chicago with Punk and St. Louis with Randy Orton. But what are those shows going to look like going forward? What does the NXT brand look like going forward? Will it get a bit of a facelift? They have been in that warehouse, and yeah, it's been black and gold. It's had the fences up. You've seen the paint splatter 2.0. We're kind of back in the black and gold mix of it all right now, but it's looked the same for quite some time. Will they freshen the show up? Will this show be on the road more often? They're not running many live events, so how will that change as they move to the CW? It certainly seems like the CW is all in on everything. And as they load up those first two shows, what happens after the fact? What does CW want from NXT and WWE as a whole? Do they want to see more of those big stars appear more often? We're going to talk about all of that today. But as always, you can subscribe. Rob said it right there. It's right above Todd. Fist pound to Todd. At thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Please subscribe there. Join below. Check out what we have in terms of our membership offer, starting at just $2.99. Last week was a big week for our members. We did the private 30-minute Zoom call with member B. May, who's at the top level of a Matt eventer. We watched Raw from 1997 in Germany, in Berlin, leading into Bash at Berlin. And we watched Bash in Berlin last week here on the show. We did an AMA. More of that stuff will be coming this month and each and every month going forward here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. So make sure you're a member. And if you're listening on podcasts form, because you could do that now. And if you're going, wait a minute, this is a podcast? Yes, it is. It has been a podcast now for a little over a week, thanks to our friends at the Believe Network, which we are now part of. The interest in the show made that happen. We talked. They said, we'd like you. You got it. So the Wrestling Mat is now available just like this, all the same, but as a podcast. So please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. I know it's on Apple and Spotify, but hey, really appreciate it if you could do that. Always helps, as everybody know, the algorithm, and we could use all of your help there and your support. It's really appreciated. And as you're watching today, if you're watching on YouTube, hello, thanks for being with us. Be in the live chat. Hit us up. Get a super chat in. It's a great way to support the show. And if you're listening on Believe, if you're listening as a podcast, there is so much more that we offer here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com on our YouTube page. So become a member there and subscribe. All of your support means a lot to us, and we really appreciate that. What up to Mike, Rob, and Nerdy Dude? How's it going on this afternoon? If you're watching with us live, if you're watching with us after the fact, hey, we got all kinds of stuff there at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Yesterday's episode, I really enjoyed talking about the debut of Joe Tessitore and how much he bolsters the roster for the announce team. I think he gives them someone that they don't have to worry about as it relates to someone opposite of Michael Cole. I think they have something very good there. And I also talked about blood in WWE. Seems to have made somewhat of a comeback, but how can it be worked in? How can it be worked into the Drew McIntyre CM Punk feud? How can it be worked into the feuds of the future in WWE where they're not shying away from it? How does all of that make sense? We talked about the presentation of Gunther and how he has elevated the World Heavyweight Championship. He's elevated the Intercontinental Championship and the domino effect that has had on guys like Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. That, to me, is the best booked wrestler in all of professional wrestling because it doesn't feel like anything is missing with him. Doesn't feel like any of his segments are wasted or bad. He is probably one of the most consistent, good, big-time match wrestlers out there because he doesn't know anything different. We also talked about the contract of Swerve Strickland and how that is changing the industry and how it might not make some companies happy. Obviously, there was the report of what WWE thought of the contract and how it changed the market value, and it's too high for someone like that. Hey, if you can go get paid and you can get that money, then that's where the value is at. And that's when companies then have to fall in line and pay accordingly. And that's how it should be. As I also talked about, quite the lengthy and large contract I heard that was signed at Bash at Berlin by a now long-time main eventer in WWE. I heard somewhere in the area of 5 years, $30 million. And you might go, wow, that's a lot of money. And you know what? I say they've earned it. And I also say they don't have a lot of time off. And I also say that company has the money. And if you want to pay for top talent these days, well, guess what? That's where the market is. And everybody should be encouraging and rooting for that. But let's move on to NXT. Just really, as I'm doing here, as I said yesterday, not diving into the show as a whole. I watched the show, of course, but don't need to go match by match with you. I want to hit on the big topics that I took away from watching the show. So let's talk about the debut of Giulia, kind of working our way backwards here as Roxanne Perez came out, did her typical heel routine, is I'm the best, you're probably tired of seeing me. Chelsea Green, who seems to be able to just battle anybody, face or heel, just because she's not there's no characterization of Chelsea. It's just Chelsea, and I mean that in the best way possible. I think she's one of the most valuable pieces in terms of making the most of her minutes, maximizing her time. You could put her anywhere on a show, and that's what they did last night. Chelsea Green was clearly put on to that show as a ruse. Why? Because it was setting up Giulia coming out to actually challenge Roxanne Perez. And an unfortunate camera angle when Giulia came out and hit the knee on Chelsea. If you catch that from any other angle, it looks okay. It is what it is. I don't put that on anybody. That happens sometimes. Giulia might have been trying to be a little extra safe. But the presence of Giulia and what she now means to the NXT brand as a whole. And now, if you don't know a lot about her, Giulia really jumped off the page during her time. I mean, she's wrestled in multiple places, but Stardom, and then Marigold, which is a newer all-female promotion in Japan. She is, am I correct, Japanese and Italian, some of her heritage that I know of. Always a unique look, always changing her look, always evolving her look. Someone that you see and go, who's that? Which is exactly what you want in professional wrestling. A very hard-hitting wrestler who has wrestled the best of the best and had been rumored for some time to be coming to WWE. And then it was pretty much not an open secret. You know, it was an open secret for quite some time. She had an injury to her arm that slowed her return or slowed, maybe didn't slow down what was going to be her WWE debut, which happened at No Mercy, making the entrance and confronting Roxanne Perez after her victory over Jada Parker. So they do that again last night with Chelsea Green being the red herring, and Giulia comes out and she takes out Chelsea, and she just says, you know, very quickly, you, me, CW. Okay, so there we go. That's it seems to be the direction that we're going in. An NXT women's champion taking on what I assume would be a debuting Giulia. You know, that's happened before. Do you have a debuting talent who I think that crowd right there that you're seeing that crowd that you're seeing, I think you know that they're going to know wrestling a little bit more. And they knew who Giulia was. And here's the other thing. She debuted in Denver. I think there was a decent reaction there for her. Now it's more about educating the audience on who she is, and I think they can do that. So what does this mean? What does she bring to the table? How did she come across? I think her look is cool. I think there is a magnetism to her. I think her music friggin' stinks, and that is a problem with a lot of talent in WWE. I don't know why of all the things, they've invested money in better production. They've invested money in production talent. They've invested money in talent. They've invested money in Joe Tessitore. They are making everything look good. Why is the music so bad? How do you let that happen over and over and over again? And it always comes to the forefront. It always comes to the forefront at the Royal Rumble. It always, like you hear it go, who's that? That should catch you right away. An entrance goes a long way. An entrance is what catches people. It's like anything right now. If you're not capturing people in the first 15 to 30 seconds on a YouTube channel, on TikTok, on Instagram, you want to sit up and take notice. Her entrance, in terms of how she comes out and how they darken it, that looks cool and all that. But her music's god-awful. And there's so much of that. That music is just not standing out, and it doesn't sound unique, and it sounds like the same people making the music. And I know that's been the case in the past. However, yes, whether it be Jim Johnston or CFOs or whatever it may be, they at least had unique sounds for different people. It doesn't feel like that is the case anymore. Everything seems to run into each other. I think Ethan Page's music is good. I think that's a pretty good theme. I assume they did that, Def Rebel. But man, like think of Io Sky. How unique her music is and how it sounds. And then you have like Bailey's music, which is god awful. Bailey. Not some random that's coming up on Level Up and all right, we'll just give him or her something. Bailey has bad theme music. How is that possible? How has nobody corrected that? So you want to present Giulia in a big way, and it's just a theme. I don't think it makes you go, oh, that's Giulia. That's what it should be. Chelsea's is very, you know it's her. You know it's Chelsea. When she comes out, there's cadence to it. I don't get how that's getting messed up. I don't get how that is falling by the wayside when everything else has been taken to another level. Money has been invested. Let's make the productions bigger. Hey, we're going to Berlin. Guess what? We're not doing the kickoff show in Stanford and green screens anymore. We're sending our talent there. Of course, you want it to sound big. You want it to feel big. This one I don't get. I would assume over like probably next week and in the coming days, we will get more on Giulia, on who she is. I'd be very interested to see if we get Marigold footage, because it seems like there is, Io went there. She went and worked there. It seems like that would make sense, and I would think we will get that in the coming days. If it was me, I'm putting a Giulia match on the WWE Vault YouTube page. I am making sure that people know more about her. You want a little bit of mystique about her. I get that. But believe me, she's got plenty of good stuff to show from her career that they probably have access to. Even if it's the Marigold matches of the last few months. I would think they can show those things. And I think they should. And as I've said plenty of times, their production staff and the editors that put that stuff together are fantastic. I think it's one of the very best things about pro wrestling is a good video package. I love that we're seeing more of that now just on social media of people who don't work for AEW, people who don't work for WWE or TNA, just making cool videos. The Pink Pony Club of Adam Page, Hangman is so good. Go find that one. That's always going to enhance in talent. And I'll throw this out there. You're probably not going to see the same angle of the knee she hit on Chelsea. And they'll probably try to make that look better. But they can do that. Yeah, definitely go check out Giulia. Her and Roxanne on paper is a good match. It's a big debut match, obviously. It's a big match for CW. And let's get into CW and the build to CW. It's a new TV contract. Next week, with everybody moving over, because this Friday is the last Fox Friday SmackDown. Bye-bye, Fox. I don't think they'll be too upset to see WWE go, and vice versa. But next week, USA gets everything. Raw, NXT, and then, of course, SmackDown. But they're building towards the CW and what that debut will look like. And Ethan Page defending his title. And Giulia and Roxanne on that show. They're going on the road for those first two shows. I don't want to say they don't count, because they count, but they're making them big. It's very easy comparison. Nitro, as we watched here, went to the Mall of America for their first show. And then they were in like Miami, Florida the next week on what was more of a traditional Nitro set. I think that is what I would expect from NXT the first 2 weeks. You make it big. You're going to go up against Dynamite, I believe, on that second week. And in October. And what's going to be the case is what it looks like after that. Will they go on tour more? Will they go on the road more? I think all their PLEs will now be on the road. I don't think you're going to see any more of those PLEs that happen inside the PC, nor should they. You know, their next big one, obviously, the CW thing is going to be a PLE level show on its own, but you have Halloween Havoc at the end of next month. Rob was asking, what was the last TV network switch like this? In terms of a fresh network or just a switch? So SmackDown went to Fox. I guess that would be the last one. SmackDown going to Fox Network. That's the last one. Because they were on Sci-Fi, USA, NBC Universal before that. So yeah, it would be SmackDown to Fox would be the last one, which is the 5 years ago. And Friday will be the last one. What does CW want? You know, what's the level of CW's involvement in this? The reports that they're all in, that they're ready to go, that they want this. Does NXT kind of stay the same? Because once again, it's developmental. And that's very apparent when you watch the show. There's acting that's awful. There's wrestling that's probably at 0.75 speed. There's other stuff that stands out that's very good. What is the push from the CW? Like, what does the CW go, okay, we have this, we have Live Golf. I think they're doing some football this year. You know, do they get a big push? Does that matter? Network is obviously important to have. It's not a major network, and I think they're kind of trying to build up their portfolio, which is a good spot. Listen, that is why they got paid. That's why WWE got paid, because CW is trying to build up their portfolio. You know, I think it came out that it was said that initially they had shopped NXT to Netflix, which turned into Raw, which is interesting. I had thought NXT may end up on Amazon. When I was there, I had heard those rumors. There's the picture of Hunter at, I forgot what the hell he was watching. He was watching somebody at a fashion show. And Bezos was sitting next to him. It was like Mark Shapiro or Ari or Mark, Triple H, and Bezos, like all sitting next to each other at one of the New York Fashion Week shows. All right, maybe Amazon's at play. And I'm sure they talked to Amazon. I'm sure they talked to Apple. CW is a network move. There's an app. You can watch Billy Corgan's reality show on there and maybe find out whatever that announcement was on NWA the other day. That earth-shattering announcement. I shouldn't laugh. I'm sure it was very important. And I'm sure the Smashing Pumpkins touring is just about the music and not about funding Billy's NWA vanity project. I'm sure that's all it was. But for the CW, it's not the money of Raw. It's not the money of SmackDown. I don't, like I said, there's a famous executive that had helped WWE for some time that had, been in their corner in USA. It was Bonnie Hammer. And she made a lot of stuff happen for WWE while working for USA Network. I feel like NXT is going to get that kind of backing. But is there an expectation? There was talk that Fox wanted $3 million. They didn't get that. They won the night a lot on Fridays in the demo, but they didn't get that. What does CW want? NXT's drawn between what? About 600,000 and 700,000? Get over maybe into the 750 range on a big week? That's a different looking number on network. Could be higher. There's the whole thing of, will people go find them? I think they will. The fact that they are plugging CW on USA Network, there's that weird gray area there. Where you're going to another network, you're not going to be here anymore. And yeah, WWE Week is happening next week. And look, NBC Universal now gets SmackDown, and they'll keep Raw through the end of the year. So they're on board. They're going to play ball. Sure, promote CW. That's fine. But can you get it away from being as much of a developmental show? Lyra Valkyria showed back up last night. You tend to see every couple of weeks somebody show back up. Now, a big part of it, though, has been the relationship with TNA, and I want to get to that in a second. But in terms of the build to CW, I don't think I'm going to really judge what the show is until week 3. And certainly give it more time. Just because you load up the first 2, it's not what the show is going to be, at least I don't think. Do they freshen up what the Performance Center looks like? Do they start to go, hey, we should go on the road once a month? Do we go on the road in a week where, we're doing a PLE? That's the tough part, though, because you got to think about this now from a business standpoint. You got the trucks that go to Monday Night Raw. And then they don't have a show of that level until Friday. So you can get everything there that you need to, whether it be the people, the production, the talent, all that stuff, the trucks. NXT has, a dedicated production crew value. The people come in for it, sure, but they have something that's there at all times. They're always set up for that. You take that show on the road, you could do it back-to-back weeks, but, that's about routing where everything goes and having crew to do that. And, does the crew that worked Monday have to be ready to work Tuesday? And listen, they did this. They used to do live Raw Monday, tape SmackDown Tuesday. So this exists. This idea of doing this exists. But is it sustainable when we would be talking about 3 shows a week, not including a premium live event week? So it might be more of a special thing. And I get launching it in a big way. And I get it looking that big. What does week 3 look like? What does week 4 look like when there is no CM Punk and there is no Randy Orton? And maybe they'll build the stuff. I'm not going to take that away from them. They have obviously had main roster talent show up and stick around for 2, 3, 4 weeks. How much does CW want to get their hands in this thing? What do they expect? I happen to believe that this whole show was sold on the fact that they had strong ratings, with Seth showing up, with Judgment Day showing up, with Becky showing up and sticking around. I absolutely believe that was all a strategy to pick up the show and pick up the ratings so it could be sold accordingly. And it worked because they got paid more to go to CW. So it worked. So they're making money off their developmental while trying to develop for the future. That brings me to the state of the WWE TNA partnership. So if we go off of No Mercy, Wentz beat Wesley. Neither guy appears on the show last night. I take that back. Sorry. West didn't appear on the show last night. The Rascals became number one contenders. So you'll have Wentz and Trey taking on Axiom and Frazier for the NXT tag team titles. No mention of West. I don't have a problem when a heel loses and you keep them off TV after a big match on a pay-per-view. So there's that. Joe Hendry main events No Mercy. In a match with Ethan Page defending, with Trick Williams, one of the biggest stars in NXT, if not the biggest. Refereeing, there's a low blow. Kind of unsatisfying, if you ask me. I don't know what WWE sees in Joe Hendry for the long term. I don't know what their expectations are. I don't know what they think they can get out of him. Obviously, the training at the PC helped. And how much was that about making sure he was in there and training and working hard to get ready for that main event match? I would assume it continues, but that seems like a little bit more of a bigger deal as it relates to the WWE TNA partnership, which, by the way, exclusively revealed here on the Wrestling Mat when Joe Hendry was on. Go back and watch that interview in the archives of the WrestlingMatShow.com. But Joe loses. And they show the highlight packages and all that. And we know at the end it's, Ethan and Trick kind of looking at each other back and forth. And Trick, begrudgingly counted the pin. And then Pete Dunne beats him up. And that's how No Mercy goes off the air. So as you look at the WWE TNA partnership, no Joe Hendry last night for the first time in a while. A TNA tag team, half of which just won a match and is the X Division champion, get a shot at Frazier and Axiom next week for the NXT Tag Team Championships. On paper, hell of a match. And the tag team titles have been, flipping around, Frazier, Axiom, Chase U, all that stuff. But they just changed hands again. I mean, they changed hands, twice in 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, with Chase U and Frazier and Axiom? Would they do it again next week? But then put titles? Would they put WWE Championship gold on TNA wrestlers? They had Wentz beat Wesley. When I saw that happen, I kind of went, I don't think Joe's winning. Not that I really did. Would you have wanted to beat both TNA guys on the same night? Apparently not. But Joe loses. And he loses on a low blow. But he gets pinned. And that's it. And I know he wasn't announced for the show last night. And I know the numbers have been okay. They've dipped a little bit. Back down under 700. Were you bummed by the finish? Was it less satisfying? Even if you thought Ethan Page was going to win. Did it kind of take the wind out of the sails of Joe Hendry? He posted after, I just made events of No Mercy. Hey, we're doing this because of you. Did that hurt Joe a little bit more than maybe you wanted? Did they shotgun this? Did they do it too fast? Did they get Joe instead of building up Joe more? Did they get to it too fast? Did they hot shot it? Because, hey, he's popular right now. We're going to go with this. We're not going to let him win, but we're going to go with it. I think they were doing well in ticket sales anyway. And they've done well across the board. WWE is a ticket selling machine right now. People want to go see them. Advanced ticket sales before stuff is even announced. They've looked great. I don't think Halloween Havoc looks great, but they got time. But it felt like a letdown for Joe Hendry. Do they look at him as, hey, we're going to take advantage of how hot he is, but maybe we don't see a ton. Maybe we don't see, maybe this, what he's doing right now is his peak. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes. What are they thinking about? Let's take advantage of this while we can. That's a possibility. And, he could be back next week. I would have to think that he'll be on the CW episodes when they debut. I think it makes too much sense to not have some kind of interaction with Punk or Randy or both. But once again, what is that partnership? TNA at some of their tapings, and I don't want to spoil it. I'm not sure what is aired when, but they've had some females pop up. And then on the other side, for the Jordynne Grace Open Challenges, we'll get to that in a second. And on the other side, Rosemary last week wrestles Kelani Jordan, and then is back this week in what seems to be, I would assume, a continuing partnership with Wendy Chu and Rosemary, which I think works. Freshens up Rosemary, who has probably done everything she possibly can at TNA at this point. And how many times can you win tag gold and Undead Realm and all that kind of stuff? So her and Wendy's, it's a good tandem. And they bring Lyra back last night because God knows she hasn't been doing anything since Queen of the Ring, anything of note, to be back with Tatum. And you got a nice little mid-card under feud there. Nothing special, but okay, keep the partnership going. And then you have Jordynne Grace cut a promo, not interestingly enough. And who knows when it was asked of her. I would have had her cut that promo at a TNA show. I would have had her cut that promo. And maybe, I don't know. I don't know what Anthem thinks of that. I would have had her cut that promo backstage at TNA, not in her gym on her phone. That's a nitpick. But she will do an open challenge next week in NXT. So we haven't seen her for quite some time since she lost to Roxanne after an otherwise very strongly presented, character on NXT. So where do you go with that next week? Who faces her in the open challenge? What does that match look like? I would think she's going to win, but does that keep Jordynne around? Because she's hit a home run every time, from the Rumble to beating up Stevie Turner to her backstages to her and Roxanne. She's doing everything she's supposed to do. She's been doing more of the open challenges. I know she's been doing stuff with Ash by Elegance, but she's wrestled some NXT female talent open challenges over there. How big do you want that to be next week? What does that build to in the future? Where is this partnership at? Is it just kind of there? Is it just kind of, hey, there's just the talent exchange and we'll keep that going? Has the excitement of the partnership worn off? I think it has in terms of ratings. Whether it's, hey, I expect to see Joe Hendry every week, or I'm not super familiar with these people. I think there was the initial, which I had said. The initial part of it was there's an excitement of the idea of it. Not necessarily about the talent. It's just, wow, two companies I didn't think would work together, working together. What could this bring us? And I think the novelty of that has worn off. So maybe now it is just talent exchanges. And I think the next big thing to happen would be one side winning the other side's title. It's Wentz winning the tag team titles next week. It would be Jordynne Grace winning something like that. someone from NXT wins a TNA title or vice versa. I think that's when you start to perk up again. But it doesn't feel like the same excitement is there. Nerdy dude, for me personally at this point, it feels like AEW and TNA all over again. Yeah, Kenny Omega wrestled, though, in TNA. He made multiple appearances. He was the world champ. Yeah, Christian took the Impact title off him and all that kind of stuff, but he was the world champ. And Jordan Grace is the Knockouts world champ, no doubt about it. But, no. Is Ziggler coming back to NXT? What would he be? Would he be Nick Nemeth? The Good Brothers are going back and forth. But I get it. Like, did that novelty wear off? I think it wore off there. They got they got one of the biggest stars NXT that AEW has and had in Kenny Omega, so that was big. And they got some Christian and stuff like that, and Tony showed up on the show and all those things. Jordan Grace is not at Kenny Omega's level, but she's a big star for TNA purposes. But, Joe Hendry's the closest thing, and only because of his popularity, and not even that has gone on for that long. But it is starting to fall into that realm. Let me get some here. Here it is. Sorry, Will, I didn't mean to skip this. Will here says, do you think, and Will, thank you very much for the super chat. Always get your question answered, your topic discussed here on the show. It's a great way to support. Will says, do you think with all the women around the world, NXT is coming in, is there why of telling some of the NL? Oh, okay. I'll try to decipher that, Will. I'm glad you brought that up, Will. The idea of, here's Giulia. Hey, Rosemary's coming over. Hey, Jordan Grace is going to wrestle our women's champion. She's going to come back and put an open challenge out for her championship. We just main evented a pay-per-view with Joe Hendry, who doesn't even work for this company, and Ethan Page, who 6 months ago didn't even work for this company. I don't know how Endeavor looks at the NIL program, how TKO is adjusting that, if at all. Because I have always said, and I said this when I was there, I was always shocked at how many people were upset about these tryouts and these NIL deals. And as long as you're not having tunnel vision with that, it's fine. I've always said you're going to be ahead of the game if you're going to get into wrestling for two reasons. One, you can talk. And two, you're a fan of the product. Now, look, there have been people that haven't been fans of wrestling. Chris Statlander's a great example of that. I don't know if people know that. Like, she kind of found wrestling. Bianca Belair was found by Mark Henry. Seems to have worked out. Some people don't watch it and they pick up on it. I think I had talked about recently, whether I said it here or elsewhere, it's good to show that you're a fan. Like, I remember telling the Creeds that. My whole thing with Jada Parker last week. Oh, I played soccer, D1 athlete. And I was like, that's the same story of so many people there. It's not a character builder. It feels like the baseline if you got signed and you're not from the indies. It was a D1 whatever player. Great. You and everybody else. It doesn't set you apart. I told the Creed brothers this. I don't want to hear about your grind and your work ethic. It's boring. Nobody cares. Tell me why they should care. How do you relate to these people? They had those awesome workout things. They were doing stuff no one's ever seen before. That jumps out. Not just lifting weights like they're showing in that CW commercial. I don't get that one at all. Hey, they're working out. No shit they are. They're wrestlers. They better be. Then I see Julius Creed start wearing like Kurt Angle jerseys and stuff like that because he grew up and he was a fan. Like, cool. Now people go, oh, they're fans. They didn't just get signed from Duke or whatever. Rob said, NIL, a glossy, I'll put that in. NIL, a glossy wrestling school invite, and most wrestling schools have 98% of people who sign up wash out. Yeah, there's a level of that. When they do these tryouts at a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania, They're putting you through the paces, but they're going, who can we mold? That's the idea. Who can we mold? We're not going to get a finished product from these tryouts. That's what these are not. These tryouts are not for that. These are invite tryouts of athletes and people that have come from different walks of life. But, you know, these are people who are established in sports in some way. When they bring people in for Indian tryouts, or they bring people in to go, because they went and watched them, because Gabe Sapolsky saw somebody somewhere, or Regal went somewhere, whatever it may be. Jerry Briscoe used to do that. Jerry Briscoe, here's the thing with the NIL thing that once again bothers me. Jerry Briscoe used to go to the NCAA Wrestling Championships every year. It's the same thing as recruiting from the having an NIL program or doing these tryouts. It's the same thing. People got so mad about it, though. I was like, oh, my God, they're just going to get all these athletes and they're going to forget about the indies. And no, if you're good enough, they're going to find you. Javon Evans is a great example. GIULIA is a great example. They're going to go find these people. Stephanie Vaquer, sure, she was in CMLL, and she was in New Japan, and she was in AEW, but they went and got her. And as long as they don't have tunnel vision, it's fine. Guess who played football that you love? Big E. He's not an indie worker. He played football at Iowa. He ended up in FCW. I think that's worked out quite well. Roman Reigns played football at Georgia Tech. Didn't work the indies. Alexa Bliss did not work the indies. It's worked out okay. And I'm not saying it's the same for everybody. I'm saying there are different ways to make it. Rob brought up Braun. Braun did a little bit on the indies, but not too much. But Braun, almost ended up with the Ravens, I think it was, as a fullback. And the family stuff can be a little different with that. I get that. You're around the business a little bit more, so it's ingrained in you a little bit more. But I think if you're good enough, they're going to go find you. I don't think the indies are as hot as they were. Baron Corbin. Dom just said it to me, and Dom, producer Dom. Baron Corbin is a great example. Golden Gloves, boxing, practice squad, roommate with McAfee. He's one of the best pure heels the company's had. So you should have eyeballs everywhere, and your prongs should be stretched out as far as they can go. Does it say something that a TNA wrestler is main eventing No Mercy with a guy that didn't work for the company a few months ago? Yes. Yes, it does. Hey, they got hotter than everybody that's been here. We're going to go with that. If I was down there, I'd be kind of going like, all right, I got to step up my game. At the same time, you go, hold on a second. What's going on with the training down here? What's going on with the character development? How did a guy get more over in a company that is not seen by nearly as many people with his own social media push on his own? How did he get more over than everybody here? By a long shot. It's a little bit of an indictment. I think it is telling. I think it is telling that Ethan Page walked in and went right to the top because of how he conducts himself. And that, to me, is the number one thing that needs to be taught down there. Character work, character development. Who are you? Some of the acting you could see on that, oof, it's brutal. Brutal. Then I watched Ren Sinclair. She's great. Oh, Ren's an indie wrestler. She came from indies. She did her own stuff. She did a Kardashians gimmick. She took advantage of the fact that you could put whatever you want out into the world using this. What I think you got to look at, and Rob just said it, for everyone else in Orlando, be better than Joe Hendry. Don't be upset, just be better. Get to that level. Rob Dog, doesn't it stand to reason what HBK said, that they don't have the vets, and adding ego and grace and so on makes them more rounded? It does make them more well-rounded. But Jordan went away, and she's going to stand out when she comes back. They should be more well-rounded. I'm saying other people need to get their level up, whether they need to do it on their own, whether the coaching needs to be better, whether the creative needs to be better. They have stagnated, and the ratings will tell you that. That NXT TNA excitement it's cooled off now. They've kind of cooled off Trick until last night. And he's doing exactly what he should be doing. I don't know what the hell he was doing for the last month since he lost the title. He was kind of just doing nothing. Well, he's got to go find himself again. He's got to, okay, but what was he doing to do that? You do what you did last night. You set him up in a big last man standing match, a match he should win against Pete Dunne. You got to heat Trick back up again. Now, that'll bring me to Obafemi, who I don't think I gave enough credit to a few months back. We posted something here about Trick Williams saying, I thought he was the next, or he was the only person in NXT I considered a real future main eventer on the main roster. And I still believe that he's going to be. I don't see many others like that. I don't really see anybody else like that except for Obafemi. There's a guy with a presence. There's a guy who wrestles to what he looks like, to his ability, that carries himself in that way, that has now shown you could throw him in these skits and stuff with Tony D'Angelo in the pre-tapes, and he's got it. You listen when he talks. He speaks with confidence. I know people didn't like that line to Rizzo. It's not real. It's just wrestling. He's the heel. He said something heelish to her. Let it go. But there is a good presence about him. From what I have seen, and I know he's worked some very good talent, more experienced talent, but from what I've seen, he's ready. I still want to see him work other people that are more experienced than him and are better than him. He seems to be one of those guys that won't need the NXT championship to move up. Like, he won't have to check that box off. To me, he looks like the most dominant champion in NXT. He looks like the realest champion in NXT. And I know Ethan Page is a different character. He's more of a chicken shit, so that's fine. My point is that's what Oba comes off as. That's what he projects. I know a lot of people are behind him. He needs to get out of that warehouse. He needs to get out of that performance center. I think he wrestles bigger than that place. I think we saw it on Sunday at No Mercy. I saw it last night. They kind of did the hoop, that part, and they were kind of quiet for his match. Like, all right, we know what's going to happen already. Rob just said, I think the PC is a big problem. I started watching again. It's a tough watch. It is so contained. It is the same. Like, I don't judge people on how over they are until they get out of that place. Yes, you got to establish it. Once again, it's developmental. But how do you project bigger? When you step into an arena like they did on Sunday night, do you not look as important? Do you not come across as important? Or do you play up to that? Chase U, to me, is not an act that's going to go to the main roster. But I think they get over and have been over in the big arena settings. That's good. I think Obafemi has shown that. I think Wes Lee has shown that. Ethan Page has been working in arenas for longer. But Obafemi, to me, is too big for that place. I think he overshadows a lot of people. I think he needs to be, I don't get why they're not running more shows to get them ready. Obafemi should be working main roster live events, and I know they're cutting back on those. He should be on those shows. That's what they used to do back in the day. You would work those shows before you debuted. They'd get a look at you. I think he should be on the road once a month with the main roster. And you get him in there for a weekend loop with somebody who can go. Somebody who can give him feedback. Somebody who can go to the producer and go, he's got this, but he doesn't have this. Hey, we should work on this. What if we tried this in the next match? You want to get, I get it. It's developmental. I get it. They're making money off of it. But everybody on Raw and SmackDown ain't going to be there forever. Who's coming up next? I would want to nurture them. I would want to incubate them the best of my ability before you go to Raw and SmackDown. Be the best. Be one of our top stars. We need you to. You have the capability to do that. You put Obafemi in there with a Kofi Kingston on a weekend loop, he's going to come out better. It's just how it's going to happen. You put Obafemi in there with the Santos Escobar, he's going to come out better. It's not something you have to talk about on NXT. You don't have to talk about it on Raw and SmackDown. You could bring it up. Obafemi was, that could be a passing line. Obafemi was part of the WWE Live Event Tour and wherever this weekend, Booker. Yeah, man, he's getting that experience. That's what he needs. Nobody can stop Oba. That there. You want to plug it a little bit? You can do that. You don't talk about the win and the loss. But I think he has outgrown the PC. I think they know what they have in him, but I think he's outgrown the PC. Nerdy Dude, I have a question. Now that Jade and Bianca are a tag team for quite a while now, I could see limited moves in the ring. Do you think her and Bianca teaming has paid off for Jade? She just wrestled her 100th match ever. I think somebody tweeted her, congratulations on winning her 100th match. I think she still has work to do. I think when you put her in a tag team and you're like, hey, we're going to do these tag team tandem moves, yeah, you want to get those down, but I think she just needs to be in the ring as much as possible. We've heard the stories of her working out with Danielson when she was in AEW and, trying to learn and be a sponge. And there is no indication she doesn't work hard or want this. As she posted on her social media, she's married to Brandon Phillips, who made like 9 figures, and who's like, hey, you can retire and be done. Let's just go travel the world. She's like, no, I want to do this. And it's true. She could be good right now. Doesn't want to be. So I do believe she wants to get better. I do believe that she came to WWE because the world is her oyster. The expectation is the top, as it should be. She is born, bred, and ready-made for professional wrestling. It's just getting the in-ring stuff down. She's ahead of the game. The reason we are seeing her as much as we see her is because of her presentation and how she looks and how cool she looks. And people go, that's a superhero. That's why she's already on TV. That's why she was in the Royal Rumble. That's why they found a spot for her at WrestleMania. That's why she's tagging with Bianca Belair. That's why she's on TV at least once every week. Because she's that cool looking. Because her presence is unbelievable. Because she looks like a damn superhero. The wrestling stuff is still coming. As long as they continue to help her out and build on it, then she'll get there. Would you say it would be a good decision for WWE to send her the PC? She might be going there already. And I want to address that because that's a fair question. Way more than you realize. People can get in and out of that place. So if you don't know, if you remember like the original pictures of the PC with the glass wall and the rings, like that's not what it is anymore. I think some people know this. They've shown it in social media videos, but like that's that old PC is where they shoot the show now. Next to it, it's all in the same lot. They have multiple buildings. That warehouse, anytime you see people like walking in the back, there is here, I'll give you the PC layout if I can. So you have where the show is shot, right? The locker rooms, the TV locker rooms are in that building where the show is shot. The main original PC. Where they shoot like those high school, Ashante hitting on Carmen Petrovic, whatever the hell it was last night. That's also in that building. That's kind of like a little lounge, kitchen area. So that's all in one building. And, when you see them walk through the curtain, like that gym thing you've seen a million people, working, that's right behind the curtain. Like, they just have this big open area now. And, Sean sits there and Matt Bloom sits there and, that's their gorilla area. And it's just this big, their workout gym area that they have shown a million times is what you see when you walk through the curtain. And like where they're taking pictures and all that. Social media set up there. Now, the training is a building over. So when you see the warehouse or when you see them like walking to the ring or the backstage, the fights, the stuff with Gallus, that's like a mini warehouse where they have, equipment, they have props, they have all of that. So that takes up a pretty big area. And then next to that, and all of this, by the way, is a 20-second walk in between the buildings. It's right next to is where all the rings are. Like it's 4 or 5 rings. So that's classes. That's rehab. That's CM Punk showing up and working out with people. That's, I'm sure, Charlotte down there. That is if you're on your way back or you're training for a match, or you're training for a comeback, or they're doing classes of the 100 people or so they have down there, that all happens in the next building over. So, yeah, Jade or whoever can go out, work out down there, or, Natty has the stuff with TJ, and they have their own, mini dungeon ring or whatever the hell, or whatever the hell it is. There's places that people can go and work out and do whatever they want. Some people are on the road so much that they can. I don't know what they're telling Jade. I don't know what she's saying she wants to. If she said, hey, I want to go there every week, they'd go, you got it. I'm sure they would make that happen. I'm sure if they asked her to go do that stuff, maybe that would be the case. But I don't think you're always going to know when that stuff is happening. And I know in the new headquarters, they would like to, although it wasn't set up this way when I was still there, and I don't think it is, they'd like to be able to have people work out and train up there. There is a ring there. It has been seen on some programming. That's basically right in the middle of the new HQ, and it's more for show. But who knows if they could use that for something. So, and then that whole thing about the PC in Vegas and moving out there, I'm sure they could set up a ring out at the Apex. I'm sure they could set up a ring out there. I'm not saying it's going to be a full-on performance center, but I think they'd want to, if we need it, we could use it. And maybe vice versa for UFC with the PC. So it is, it's multi-purpose in that way. I think that's the best way I would put it. Which brings us to the end of the program today. So tomorrow, a lot of heavy topics as it relates to AEW. No, I wasn't touching that lawsuit today because it's so ridiculous. My goodness, was that thing ridiculous. I hope that gets taken care of quickly because of how ridiculous it is. Anyway, I will be back tomorrow, of course. We'll be coming off of Dynamite. We'll hit the big topics off of that. Any other news that might be coming down will be covered right here on The Wrestling Mat. Make sure you subscribe at thewrestlingmatshow.com. Become a member. Hit that join button. There it is. Everything you need. Right above Todd. Easiest way to get in at $2.99 a month, but so much more at $6.99 a month if you're a Matt Camper, and the Matt event at $24.99 a month. More announcements on those things coming soon, what you'll have coming your way. It's a new month, so we have new things to get to with the next Zoom. We'll connect you on social media. All those things will be coming your way this month. Become a member, and if you're listening on Believe, come watch the show. Come watch the show here at thewrestlingmatshow.com. Become a subscriber, become a member. And if you want, we'd certainly appreciate it. Great way to support the show. Please subscribe to the Wrestling Mat on the Believe Network, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there now. It's the same show. It's just an audio form. Please rate, review, and subscribe there. It very much helps us, and all your support helps us. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about wrestling even more right here, 1 p.m. Eastern on the Wrestling Mat.